The CFO role has changed more in the last 5 years than in the previous 50. What used to be about managing numbers is now driving strategy, influencing leadership, and navigating chaos. But just like in any other field, if you don't adapt, you risk becoming obsolete. But in this video, we'll break down the essential skills every modern CFO needs to stay ahead, and one surprising skill that most still ignore. So, what does it really take to thrive as a chief financial officer today? The game's changed. Financial skills alone won't cut it. You need to think like a strategist, lead like a CEO, and move fast in a world where numbers are only one part of the story. So let's go back to the start. There was a time when being a chief financial officer meant mastering spreadsheets, staying ahead of tax deadlines, and balancing budgets. A simpler time. But any CFO will tell you that's no longer the job. Today's CFO sits at the center of the business, not just as a gatekeeper of capital, but as a strategist, communicator, and trusted advisor. Take, for example, something like a digital transformation project. The traditional CFO would simply approve the budget, but the modern CFO instead leads the charge, assessing which technologies would yield the highest ROI, aligning stakeholders from IT to HR, and building a financial case that the CEO can use to get board buy-in. In other words, today's CFO uses their financial acumen to drive, not just enable high-level decision-making. And that's the modern CFO role in a nutshell. It's someone who still owns the numbers, yes, but it's really someone who shapes the narrative behind them. And that shift requires an entirely different skill set. One key skill underpinning all this is the ability to see around corners. In fast-changing markets, risk isn't something you manage, it's something you predict. One CFO we work with recently restructured supply chain financing at his global manufacturing firm after analysing geopolitical risk scenarios. Months later, when disruptions hit, their company was one of the few still moving product. This is why risk management has become a daily mindset for CFOs. Another CFO we spoke to from the retail space restructured their cash reserve strategy, not because of a looming crisis, but because she saw early indicators of tightening credit markets. 2 quarters later, competitors were scrambling for liquidity. This foresight didn't just protect the business, it created opportunity. But it's not just about identifying threats, it's about building resilience. That means understanding regulatory shifts, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and supply chain dependencies, and knowing what levers to pull when the unexpected hits. The best CFOs build flexibility into their models so they can pivot quickly rather than panic later. And then there's the more intangible skills like communication. It's no longer enough just to understand the numbers. You really have to explain them, simply, confidently, whether it's in a boardroom, a town hall, or a tense investor call. The CFOs who have mastered communication can simplify complex financial models into key tangible metrics that the entire company can rally around. It's about offering context behind the numbers and packaging them in a way that means that everyone, no matter their role, can understand exactly what they mean. And let's not forget leadership, perhaps the most intangible yet important skill. The best CFOs don't just lead finance teams, they influence culture. Emotional intelligence, once considered soft, is now an essential skill. Great CFOs know when to push, when to listen, and when to step back. They make people feel safe in uncertainty, and that's what keeps teams focused when the pressure's on. Underpinning all of this, of course, is business acumen. The modern CFO understands marketing funnels, supply chain models, product roadmaps, and customer lifetime value. Not because they want to micromanage, but because they know finance is no longer a silo. It's the glue that connects every decision to the bottom line. So if the old CFO was the numbers expert behind the scenes, the modern CFO is out front, navigating uncertainty, shaping strategy, and unifying the business around a common direction. It's no longer about having the answers, it's about asking better questions. How do we stay agile? Where's the next risk hiding? And what will it take to grow responsibly? The CFOs who rise and truly lead are the ones who balance precision with perspective. They're fluent in finance, but speak the language of business. They're steady in crisis, curious in calm, and bold enough to see what others miss. Because in the end, it's not the title that defines a great CFO, it's the impact. You made it to the end of the video. If you'd like to learn more about any of the topics we cover on the channel, head over to financealliance.io, where you can become a free member and access hundreds of free resources created by the leading minds in the world of finance.